Hey everybody, I'm Ed Harris, and for the next 49 days, we're going to take a journey. We're going to count the days between Passover, the first day of unleavened bread, and the 49th day of unleavened bread. And then tomorrow after that, Pentecost, yay! So what is all that about? I want to give you a little bit of an introduction for those of you who are going to hang out with us on the blueprint part of the Faith of Focus website. First of all, the blueprint is a foundational understanding of our roots. We're going back to say, who is the architect? Well, God, Yahweh, our creator, is the architect. And with that being said, what is the original blueprint? What's the original design? And we're investigating what his blueprinted design is versus what a popular belief is just, oh, that was the Old Testament and shove it away. No, we're going to take a look and see some of the things that were done, some of the historical things and things done by our forefathers, and try to make a little bit of sense out of it as we grow in grace and favor in our Creator, not push it to the side. And so I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be doing over the 49 days. We have a special assignment, you and I, to accomplish as we take this journey together. The Feast of Weeks is also called Shavuot, and you will hear this term, counting of the Omer. We're going to have the Omer challenge here, the Omer challenge. Believe it, we're going to have the Omer challenge. So what I want to start is just give you a little ground rules, okay, and a little bit of background on what is happening here. Okay, first of all, stepping all the way back, we'll say that it is a mandate, and it was a biblical mandate for Israel to appear before Yahweh 3 times a year. Exodus 34:22 tells us that. Now, those times are the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is connected to Passover. Passover and the Feast of Days of Unleavened Bread, then harmony. Passover, Days of Unleavened Bread. Then the Feast of Weeks. That's what we're going to specifically be working with here on the blueprint. And then, of course, the Feast of Booths. All these holy days have, multiple names. When you're talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it's probably the one that doesn't have the multiple names. But when we talk about the Feast of Weeks, that's the counting of the Omer, the 7 Sabbaths, you shall count, that kind of thing. So at least 2 names there. The Feast of Booths, that's also called Tabernacles, yes. And, that's or Sukkot. That's going to have multiple names attached to it. But I want to give you a little bit of background before we actually got to weeks. Shavuot actually means weeks. It comes from the word Shiva like 7. That number, Shiva, is like Sabbath. It means completion. And that's why we call it the Feast of Weeks. Exodus 23:14, I'll read a little bit. 3 times shalt thou keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep a feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread for 7 days, as I have commanded thee in the time appointed in the month of Aviv. For in it thou camest out of Egypt, and none should appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, which is the first fruits of thy labor, which thou hast sown in the field. And the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered thy labor out of the field. This is interesting, and what we're going to go into here just a little bit. Like I said, this is your intro to the counting challenge. So I'm giving you a little bit of background information because we're going to count, but you're not going to be outside harvesting any wheat. Counting of the Omer is agricultural and spiritual. Now, Batia Wooten, one of my first Hebrew teachers, quotes from the Jewish book of Why. She says the counting connected Passover and Shavuot marked the beginning of the grain harvest. She's quoting from the Jewish book of Why. The first crop, barley, was cut in a small amount, and Omer was brought to the temple as a sacrifice. For the next 49 days, each day was marked off and counted. This period became known as the counting. The 50th day of Shavuot, on which the next crop of wheat was harvested and brought to the temple. That's from the Jewish Book of Why, pages 207 and 208. Now, this feast of Shavuot, which we're working toward when we start this counting, is both spiritual and agricultural. Why? Agricultural, because my praise is connected to my performance. Spiritual, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's Matthew 12:35. And what I want to focus on, since we're not going to be outside grabbing any weed, is as we count these 7 Sabbaths, we're going to deal with some attributes, some different things. Without me telling you exactly what we'll do, we're going to deal with various attributes that have to deal with the heart. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So we're going to deal with various attributes. And this is also called refinement. So we're refining our souls as we get ready to go up and make the trip to Jerusalem to do Shavuot. The other thing that happens during Shavuot is it is said that you get a Matan Torah, you receive a fresh copy of the Torah. We know in New Testament passages in Acts chapter 2 that this Acts 1 and 2, all these beautiful things are happening. And then Acts 2, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, comes upon his people. That all happens after they've counted. By the way, just as a quick aside or quick side note, Yeshua, after his crucifixion, Jesus, he was with his disciples for 40 days during this counting period. Do you think that he helped to refine those disciples in their souls? Absolutely. So after that, they went out and they did some serious, tremendous work. We're getting ready. That's the whole purpose. So just like barley was getting ready and they were cutting it and they were presenting it and going forth and so on and so forth, believing that they were going to have a great harvest for the next year, we're getting ready in this year for our year. We're getting ready. We want to receive that copy, that fresh copy of his word on our hearts. We want it to be with us, that word hid in our hearts, that we might not sin against our Creator. And so those 49 days between Pesach and Shavuot mark the time between the festival of physical redemption, Passover, and the festival of spiritual redemption, Shavuot. That's something for you to consider. Now, also keep in mind, just like when you're reading in the book of Acts, that there were all these people from all the different nations who were Israelites gathering. So this is a time of gathering for his people. It's a special time. Think about it. Passover and then the days of unleavened bread. We start right off with the humility that it takes to eat bread that's not leavened and to rejoice in our Creator. And we're starting to prepare ourselves. Now, for our challenge, you and I. For those of you who agree and you want to take this challenge, this is what we're going to do. We're going to, for 49 days, look at every day, just like we did the early watch. If you're with us and we do the early watch, in the morning you get an early watch devotional. Now you're going to get at the beginning of each day, in the evening, you're going to get an email. It's going to have a teaching in it. I'm going to do it. It's going to be a couple minutes long. It's going to have an attribute attached to it. And your challenge is going to be the next day to work with that attribute. I'm not going to tell you what those attributes are right now, but I am going to tell you that they will be challenging for you and I as we prepare and see our souls be refined as we prepare ourselves to receive that engraved word, that fresh copy, if you're a technology guy or had to reinstall software, that fresh installation of his presence in our lives. So that's what this is about. That's what we're going to be doing over this next 7 weeks, over this next 49 days. It's 7 weeks plus 1 day. However, we're going to slow drag it. We'll be counting 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of the Omer, and it's the Omer Challenge. So take the Omer Challenge with us. It's going to be 49 days. Some of you may be fasting and so on and so forth. Great. Whatever the Lord has laid on your heart, you can share that here on the My Faith in Focus platform. Tell us about that. If you're a member, you have to have a login. If you're not a member and you just get the emails, share it on Facebook. It's not required you be a member. It's great if you are, but if you're not, you can share on Facebook and share these with your friends and family. Talk about and refer them back to this video and tell them what you're doing. This is the introduction video, so people kind of know what we're doing. Now, after they get the introduction, they can jump right in, whether it's day 13, day 15, or even day 1. So this is your introduction. This is your overview. It's a short, sweet overview, but what we're doing is powerful. And it's always spiritual and physical. It's not just spiritual or not just physical. It's always physical and spiritual. So we can see all the things unfolding before us. So I am Ed. I want to encourage you guys to take this journey with us as we count the Omer. And also, once again, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with us here on the Blueprint, which is one of those areas in My Faith in Focus, myfaithinfocus.org. We'll talk to you guys soon. Look forward to counting Omer with you.